there's the ask, and there's the handshake, and then there's the pressure, and there's like the excitement, but that's also mixed with the weight. This will be here longer than I will be here, so what does it need to be? How is the audience going to interact with this object or with this vision? And then what are they going to bring to it to amplify that? This all was kind of born out of being in the dining hall and thinking, there's a lot of white space here. We should get something up. And from students that were constantly asking me, hey, are you gonna do a project? Can we help if it's gonna happen? Then there was the conversation about the entryway and Darrell and Lyals and wanting to redo that space and get all the new visuals, new aesthetic in there. And so that's how it really became the Field House.
We found out about it when we had a call. Mary Kate called and said, Steve wants to meet with you and Lyals and with Joe. And Joe said, I want the historical entry to the building to be named after you. Make it the Battle-Fitzgerald entry. And then inside, I want to do an atrium that tells your story. For you to do that is, number one, the benevolence of doing it and just the respect that you're showing us for that, and that you want to tell a story to symbolize that through these doors, everybody is welcome.
Lawrenceville School has come a long way from 1964, when Darrell and I first arrived here. As you know, Lawrenceville was one of the last of the Elite 8 prep schools to integrate. And when I looked out in the audience today at the student meeting, and I saw the diversity of the student population, I was really pleased that, you know, maybe somehow I have been a part of that move towards diversity and inclusion.
Took Mr. Robertson's painting class, and he challenged me in a lot of ways compositionally and working with different colors and the combinations of those colors to create something that I would not have thought of creating before. The preliminary stage of the mural was talking to Mr. Ali about what social justice issue he wants to put into the mural. Because I always had the impression that, you know, art is like a solo activity. And I go into the flex room from time to time and I see the progress that he's making every week. And it's really inspiring because in a lot of ways, I see my future self in him.
Once I had the project in mind, I knew it needed to be in line with what I do here in my studio, right? And that was an important bit of language in this arrangement, is that it's a commission by Stuart, the artist, not, hey, I'm an employee that's gonna make something that Lawrenceville wants.
It's been really cool to, first of all, try to learn Mr. Robertson's art style, because he has a very specific way for capturing like folds and like shadows, lighting, yes, there you go. So really fun doing that, but you kind of like learn from the people around you as well. And I think in terms of like more collaboration roles, we did a lot of brainstorming work together. And that was more like Harkness style classroom discussions, honestly. Because like we're brainstorming like what we're gonna put on the panels, like what we're gonna paint. And then it becomes one big cohesive idea.
The Harkness values were like definitely implemented in our process. The Harkness values of listening to each other, like open-mindedness, collaboration, that's like one of our guiding principles like in all of this artwork. And I think it's this term specifically, in doing this project specifically, has been very like important in showing us how collaborative art can really be instead of individual, because I think that most of the time we're really used to like admiring other people's talent through their final individual work. But this way I feel that we're admiring each other through the process, and I feel that's so much more impactful.
When we first sat down, you looked out and it was like a warmth you felt at how far the school had come since 1964. You know, it reflected the world outside of the fence.
Where Lawrenceville is at now is really good for the students, okay, because they've got a much more diverse experience that they can have. And that diverse experience is going to be extremely valuable to them as they go forward in life, because they'll know how to deal with all kinds of people.
Thinking about campus and thinking of a kid going from the dorm to the field house, back to class, infirmary, dining hall, that's a lot of space they cover on foot, right? And yeah, we sit for classes, but you think about the most fun you're having, it should be going from point A to point B with people. I think action, motion, a dynamic composition, all those things kind of suggested that I would need to focus on the feet. Thinking of someone in that viewing space, I get to impact how they appreciate and how they experience this in very simple ways that can have like major impact.
We did lots of exercises with Mr. Robertson where we would just sit in a room for an hour straight, and he would give us, like, as Emily said, prompts, and we would start drawing like random geometric shapes on paper, and then we would take those geometric shapes and then try to come up with something that encapsulates like the spirit of Lawrenceville. And it just goes to show that this project that we're taking on is going to be something that when other people see it, we want them to stop and like take a breath and acknowledge the work and every small detail that was put into the creation.
I'm excited to see that now we're doing a piece where ethnic groups are a really big focus, where we're rendering the skin in different ways with each person. I think that's a really interesting idea. It's bright, it's vibrant, it uses all the Lawrenceville colors. And yeah, I think it's probably going to be a more accurate representation of the school body today, which is really important because a lot of Lawrenceville has so much history and so much tradition, but it's important that we keep on renewing it to reflect the current student body as well.
The logistics of measuring the space and doing site visits and trying to understand, all right, when we mount this thing, if we're gonna hang it on cleats, we need a little bit of wiggle room to actually go up and over into the groove. So you can't make it the full length of the actual opening. So for basically 3.5 months, it was just prep, right? So material prep, panel prep, finding the right kind of space. We know what the feeling needs to be. We know what the sort of experience should be. But for a long time, it's just thinking and thinking and imagining and trying to avoid this negative thing or trying to magnify this positive thing. And so now we're in the thick of it.
Having the mural at the top as a band, number one, gives life. It's an artistic gesture, and it captures a story that we can't possibly tell, just by our story. Our story was a unique snapshot in time, but that begins to show the continuum from us, being admitted and coming into school to what the school looks like now. Long after we're gone, kids will come through and say, well, who were these people? It's the story inside in the atrium. They can read that history, and then Stewie, he gives it life.
I think Zahir had put it really nicely. He showed us that photo of Dr. King at home in his study, reading and moving through the books and the piles of stuff that it took to probably write that one speech. And I think it's real easy when you're standing in front of a finished artwork to forget that all that stuff happened before it. Is it fair to only represent what I know of Lawrenceville? So that's 2008 onwards. Or should I be trying to go back into 1950, 1900, 1880 to try and get this more holistic view? So now you got to figure out the scope of the project. And I think it made sense that we need to go from this point forward, because quite frankly, that is what it's about to me, right? I wouldn't have gotten here had the things that came before me not happened, but I can't keep reaching backwards to explain it. I just need to do what I do So the next set of people can look back at this moment and say, okay, well, that was cool. Here's how we're going to make it better.